I was planning to announce one person who would have joined us from far afield from Ghana. However, he has not received a visa. But through a video message, we will be listening to his speech. Of course, I would have preferred if he stood up. Kwesi Pratt is his name. Kwesi Pratt is a journalist from Ghana, and he is the founder and owner of the Pan-African television station in Ghana. And he is, let's put it like this, keeping a watchful eye on the Ghanaian government. For example, he questioned the government's decision to hand over the gold reserves to international mining companies for exploitation. This has been a very courageous step. Kwesi is the Secretary General of the Socialist Movement of Ghana, a group that represents and mobilizes the working people to change society and to destroy the capitalist system and to build up the socialist society. It was founded in 1993, first as a Marxist study group composed of 4 people. Today it's more than 3,000 members and 25 collectives spread all over the country. The initiative constructed an enormous mechanism to spread socialist ideas and to enter into an ideological debate. And they found in mass communication means the key to mobilization of the working class. For short, media activities are so important for the revolutionary work because we are living in a world in which revolutionary leftist Pan-African forces are not being heard. However, people need to cherish hope that the new society is possible. Kwesi has chosen the title Loss of Hegemony and Unipolarity of the West by the example of Africa and Middle East. So you are going to see him.
Well, dear comrades, first of all, on behalf of the Socialist Movement of Ghana and myself, we'd like to say thank you very, very much for inviting us to the 30th International Rosa Luxemburg conference. This is a conference we bring together people from different parts of the world to examine the world as it is today and to find ways of improving it, to find ways of accelerating the pace of the mobilization of working people to achieve the objectives of social justice, to build better democracies and so on. And we would honestly have liked to participate fully in this activity. However, and unfortunately, as a result of bureaucracy and other limiting things, we have not been able to obtain a visa to visit you in Germany. And we like on this occasion to extend to you our best wishes for a successful conference. In West Africa, where we are located, things are not very good. As a matter of fact, we have West Africa which is riddled with all manner of conflicts. Today, as we speak, Islamic insurgency in West Africa is on the rise. And 3 main countries or 4 main countries are under direct attack by these insurgents led by ISIS. These countries are Chad, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Now, this is compounded also by the emergence of the Azawad Liberation Movement in the Sahel, which is threatening to create the independent Republic of Azawad. And, has led to various military crashes across the continent. We are also very keenly aware of the problems in Nigeria, which is the most populated country in West Africa. As a matter of fact, Nigeria is half the population of the whole of West Africa, with a population of about 260 million people. But Nigeria is in very deep crisis. Nigeria in the east is suffering a secessionist insurgency, a Biaffran secessionist insurgency. To the northeast is suffering from the attacks by Boko Haram terrorists, and in the Niger Delta area, it is faced with a low-intensity civil war. It is clear that if Nigeria should explode, the whole of West Africa would be in flames. This is a very grim reality. Again, it is important to appreciate the fact that West Africa has been the bedrock of Western expansion throughout Africa. Until recently, the United States of America had its largest military drone base in Niger. The French army has bases all over the continent, and indeed Ghana is currently hosting the United States military base at the Accra Airport, Accra International Airport. Now, the spread of Western military bases across the West African sub-region poses a grim threat to the struggles of working people for liberation from neocolonialism, to the struggles of working people for the control of national resources and for the exploitation of these national resources in their own interest. Struggles have been intensified in West Africa against Western military bases, and there have been significant successes. In Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Chad, these Western militaries have been expelled, and there's growing mobilization against Western military bases on our continent. Again, there's an upsurge in the struggle against neocolonialism, which expresses itself as domination and exploitation from the colonial metropolis. If you take, for example, French-speaking African countries, all of them, without exception, have to deposit all of their foreign reserves in the Central Bank of France. And this has led to the ridiculous situation in which they have to borrow their own money and pay interest on it. Now, the emergence of the Sahel states, the agitation against foreign military bases, the agitation against the arrangements, which intensifies our exploitation and so on, has become very, very popular within the West African sub-region. And it's within this context that we have formed the West African People's Organization, which is serving as a vanguard of all of these struggles of our working people, of our peasants, and so on, in order to free ourselves from neocolonial entanglement and to build new societies, in the West African sub-region. It's important also to note that whilst these struggles are taking place in West Africa, the world itself is in flames. The apartheid occupying Israeli regime in Palestine continues to wage a war of genocide against the Palestinian people. And as we speak, close to 50,000 Palestinians, mainly women and children, have been slaughtered by the Zionist entity. We stand in full solidarity with the Palestinian people, fighting against colonial apartheid occupation, fighting for an independent and viable Palestinian state. And we join progressive forces all over the world in this battle against one of the worst forms of apartheid and colonialism in this century. Indeed, it is important also to notice that Morocco continues to occupy the Saudi Arab Democratic Republic against UN resolutions, against international public opinion, and so on. And our solidarity is with all people who are standing up against colonial occupation. We declare our unflinching solidarity with the people of Western Sahara fighting against Moroccan colonial occupation. We cannot again talk about this world without looking at the aggressive posture and aggression of the United States of America and its allies against newly emergent independent and socialist states across the world. We speak in particular about the blockade, the economic blockade which has been imposed on Cuba, which is leading to untold suffering by the people of Cuba. Currently, the electricity infrastructure of Cuba is virtually collapsing, intensifying the suffering of the Cuban people. The economic blockade is biting to the extent that Cubans are not able to get access to so many of the necessities. For example, medical supplies. People are dying because they cannot get access to critical medicine and machinery for healthcare and so on. This blockade against Cuba is completely inhuman, it's unjustified, and is part of the effort of the United States to bully smaller and younger countries into submission. And we think that the world, the progressive world, needs to stand in full solidarity, with the Cuban people. Again, Venezuela has also come under increasing sanctions regime imposed by the United States and its allies, simply because the people of Venezuela have not elected what is the choice of the Americans for the leadership of that country. We reject U.S. interventions in Venezuela and support the Venezuelan people in constructing a society based on their own aspirations and their needs. And we urge the international community to stand firm in this battle against the arrogance of the United States of America and its allies. As we meet in this meeting, as we discuss the world in this meeting, we can also not forget about the war in Ukraine. And this war in Ukraine is having devastating consequences, one, on the Ukrainian working people themselves, and is leading to a situation in which the threats against Europe and so on is intensifying. We have no doubt at all that the origins of this war can be traced to NATO's expansionism, NATO's need to expand, and NATO's need to contain, the independence of Russia. We reject the continued supply of weapons to the Ukrainian armed forces and urge that we should move towards a negotiated settlement of the Ukrainian crisis. We believe that war cannot resolve all the problems in the world, and it is important for the warring parties to come to the negotiating table and agree an arrangement which will be satisfying to the Russian people, to the Ukrainian people, and which would ensure peace in Europe and so on. We can also not accept the provocations that are deliberately being organized against China. The U.S. policy of strategic ambiguity, which encourages the division of China and which recognizes ipso facto the regime in Taiwan. We, like the rest of the progressive world, see one China, and we believe that it is possible to avert war in China. It is possible to concentrate the resources of China in solving the hydra-headed problems of the world and China itself, and so on. And we completely reject any attempt to impose war on the people of China, the government and people of China. Today, we live in a world threatened by war. We live in a world threatened by hunger. We live in a world which is threatened by illiteracy. We live in a world which is threatened by the aggressiveness of imperialism. We live in a world today whose future cannot be guaranteed. We think and believe that it is possible to build a better world. We believe very strongly that if we were to hold our hands together and to struggle shoulder to shoulder, we can build that new world in which war will be banished. We believe that we can build that new world in which hunger will be banished. We believe that we can build that new world in which the working people will derive the benefits of their labor. We believe that we can build that new world in which tillers will own the land. We can build that new world of equal people, irrespective of race, irrespective of our geographic conditions, and so on. We firmly believe that we can build a new world, and we hope that this conference will focus attention on building that new world in which no child will go to bed on an empty stomach. We wish you well, comrades. We wish you the very best. Bye-bye.